Hi, everyone. Wendy here again from the Indigo Doors, here to share a painting. I promised myself that I would start sharing the stories behind the paintings and all the messages and things that Spirit wanted me to kind of convey. And I do share when I show the painting for the first time, I'll write out what it is that Spirit wants me to say. But there's always so much more than that from the initial message. It's really a feeling space, so it's hard to put into words everything that Spirit wants us to get out of these paintings. But I'm definitely being told I have to start sharing more and more about what it is that they want, because there's always teachings involved. In today's painting, I am sharing with you a painting I actually did the beginning of last year. And it's important because I called it Rising. And this was kind of before COVID. And when I finished the painting is right when COVID was kind of really a thing. We just had heard about it, but we didn't really understand how big it was going to get. And I had no idea that this painting even had anything to do with that. But of course, Spirit has a way of just, everything's always such perfect timing, right? And so, though it was related personally to me and to others for interpersonal growth, it was also about what was going on culturally and throughout the world. So here's the painting, Rising. And I'm just going to share the story that came out of it and the teaching that did. You see here, obviously, this vulnerable woman, in this case, a woman, but it doesn't have to be a woman. It could be you can relate to it as a man. We all have female and male parts, right? So in this way, because of what's changing and happening on the earth, and the feminine parts are kind of coming more to the surface, the feminine aspects of ourself, which is the relationship to self, right? The internal relationship that we have within ourselves. Like, how do we talk to ourselves? How do we talk to ourselves? What is our how much kindness do we give to ourselves in regards to our feelings, and how we see things? So it's the also it's the internal knowing of ourselves. It has nothing to do with your gender, whether you're male or female. It's just this feminine aspect of self. So yes, how is your internal knowing? What does your gut say? Like, how much have you cultivated this? So in this picture specifically, it is representative of this aspect. And I'm sure it has everything to do with this growth happening on the planet in regards to this feminine relationship. It's obviously always here, but we're repairing some of this. We're repairing like our individuality, who your higher self is choosing to be this lifetime, your personality, right? Who your true voice, right? Like when no one else is looking, who are you? What are you doing? What are you focusing on? This part of self. And I feel like in our culture, and here we are in the United States, but I could see it kind of everywhere, is needs to be healed, right? We especially when we've been in such a male focused, male is not a bad thing, but male kind of like almost militant, sacrificing for the greater good, right? Taking away your own needs to satisfy work goals or satisfy family goals, right? Not saying that that's a bad thing. Like I said, it's just we're having to repair some of that because we've kind of went all the way to the other side. Some of us have done a better job about kind of finding the balance in between it, right? But in this way, it's about this feminine relationship with self is so complex, but it is the vulnerable parts. It's how we really feel about everything, right? And the imbalance that I was talking about, that's in our culture, is where we have to avoid how we feel. We're not comfortable with our emotions, right? We don't even want to see people cry. I grew up in an environment where that was not acceptable, right? That you did not cry was a sign of weakness. I don't feel that way anymore, but that was something that I had to overcome. And I did see that a lot in around me. And maybe that's because I was looking for it. I guess who knows, but I do see it where it's hard for people to even express themselves, especially men. Men still can't show really how they feel about things or have an emotional response. And I feel as we grow, more and more people in general, I don't want to pigeonhole anybody. Not all men are this way or not all women are this way, right? It's more like this is what we're repairing. We're repairing this vulnerability. And, it did this, I did create this pain in the beginning of last year. So to me, it kind of emphasizes the shift that's happening on the planet, like where we're headed. Um, and it still is going on right now. It's going to continue to happen probably my whole life. We're going to see this shift happening on the planet where people are allowing the self compassion piece. Because if we can do this internally, if we can repair this relationship internally and allow ourselves to have feelings, and then one, have the feelings, and then two, express the feelings, and then three, we then get to decide kind of what we want to do from there. We're not even in a functioning process of healing yet. We are. I don't want to sound like it's not hopeful. Um, but hopefully, even listening to this, you can start thinking and asking yourself those kinds of questions, like, how do you really feel about stuff? How is the relationship with yourself? How do you talk to yourself? We're looking at your belief systems and all of these things that we here at the Indigo Doors, my sister and I, Brenda, we talk about all the time. So anyway, so here you have this painting, and like all of the paintings, I just paint. I don't even know necessarily what I'm doing. So it's such a beautiful kind of magic of storytelling, because I don't even know necessarily the story that's about to emerge. And so here's part of the story, an energy that's behind it. So you have this vulnerable feminine parts of ourselves that on this journey. Really, we're on this journey, and these parts of ourselves are naked. So that is definitely exposed, right? It's very vulnerable and scary, maybe cold. I don't know if it's cold or not, but it's definitely you're raw, right? And I can definitely say this last year, 2020, it was very raw. And so I can see in this, just this, we were really exposed, right? We saw all of these things come to the surface, how we felt about our neighbors, about the COVID, and how people are handling their fear, right? And all these judgments and all of these really kind of stark polarities, right? So we had all these different aspects, from love to fear to lots of like just hatred, anything that we hadn't been looking at was just coming to the surface. But even internally, were you afraid to go out? Were you afraid of your neighbors now? Were you, and not to get controversial, but it was like there's fear within our beings, right? Not love and light, not trusting spirit, not understanding the flow. Everything was shooken up. And as this figures here, it's kind of in this really turbulent waters, very turbulent, where there's a shark, right? And so the shark represents basically your biggest and deepest fears. And I know it was such a wide range of fears that were coming up for people. And so it was very specific to the individual. It was like whatever, I was, abandonment came up for me. I could no longer see people, right? So an old abandonment trigger, right? Or whatever it is that you're dealing with for you, those things were coming to the surface as in a way, to help us love these parts, right? And I'll get more to that in a minute, but here, just kind of like creating the stage, and this was all 2020. It's fascinating to me too, because you have this symbol over here on the side where there's 22 white circles, right? And 22 white circles is, the number 22 is the number of the master builder, which is 2020 as well. But it also looks like the coronavirus, right? It almost looks like it, like if you were to like cut it in half, you know how like the virus itself looks like it's like a round thing with a knob on it. And I'll show a picture here to kind of look at it. So even having this image with these 22 white circles, um, holding this silhouette, right? Holding the silhouette of a figure, and it's completely ambiguous. So you can't. Is it a male? Is it a female? I don't know, right? It doesn't matter even. It was just asking the question, almost like a mirror saying, "Who are you? Who are you?" And I feel like it was all shooken up, and it's literally in the center of this like coronavirus symbol, kind of. So it's like, yes, that's exactly what this brought up for us culturally, right, and spiritually. And I'm not being insensitive to those who have lost lives and things. So just much love for all of you. I That's a whole nother space. But for in this moment, if you could just understand just the symbolism of the lesson, right? The bigger picture, the bigger lesson. And I'm just kind of exploring that, not to take away anybody's personal experience with this virus, especially if they've lost somebody they love. But just overall really asking the question who we are, because we no longer had identities with anything that we knew from the past. Obviously our schedules were shifted, school was brought online, right? Everyone like lost jobs, and then it became this, what are we doing with our time? And hey, I don't like working 80 hours a week. This is kind of nice working from home and only working 40 hours. So there was a lot of blessings within it, and a lot of conflict too, right? So it's still holding this bigger picture reflective piece where it was like, hey, who are we? Who am I if I'm not these things, right? Because everything was taken away. A lot of our identities were taken away. So it posed these really cool questions. So and then within it, so she's these vulnerable aspects of that are really kind of coming to the surface, and they're on this boat, and it's kind of an ancient boat, right? It's symbolic of like the spiritual nature of a ship, right? um, like we're mastering our own ship, and everybody's path and their own spiritual progression of what they were going through during this time is important. So studying where you are, and where you were, where you are, and understanding what this had to do for you, what its lesson in teaching was for you is going to be different from person to person, but it's reflective of just this. Everything is divinely guided, and everything's helping you kind of integrate these parts and love yourself more, depending on all of your lifetimes and all of your colors and sounds that you've carried throughout the time. But this is an ancient boat, meaning it's a system that we've been a part of for a long time. um, and so here she is, she's standing on this ship, so we kind of pulling in the ancestors. You can see there's a falcon there, which is just having the energy of the falcon is like focus, right? Being able to help guide us, right? Kind of our higher selves vision of helping and guiding us through this process. I'm just moving the picture here so I can see it better. um, and even the boat is made out of wood, right? Or it looks like it's faux wood or whatever, but it's carved. And even the symbolism of like carving your own boat, tree is made out of trees, which is wood, and trees represent knowledge. So the foundation and what we are floating on throughout this storm is based off of what we know. But there's always a part of ourselves that really always know, right? In that quiet, calm way, when you can connect within. And it's harder to connect with that space, obviously, when we're going through conflict and turmoil. But this painting overall is holding this like almost turbulent energy and force of this phoenix, right? This is a mythological creature, or is it? I don't know, representing this process of becoming, of life and death, and how we can have so many lifetimes in one. Um, we can reinvent ourselves, we can heal, we can change, this like the alchemy of life, we can constantly change form. And it's represented here in this whole painting. So it's just a beautiful symbol, I think, of the powers within us, the fires within us, this mastery. And it's really important to note here, even though the figure's holding a sword, it's not violent, right? It's more or less how to go about approaching our fears. This shark that's under the water, it's like our worst. It's one of my, I'm afraid of, of creepy little ocean fish sometimes. And sharks, of like lurking in the water and kind of coming up from the depths, like actually physically. But so there's that holding kind of that fear, but any fear, right? We see it as this monster. And she's yielding this sword as a mastery. It's really the sword of truth. If you've ever heard of that, it's like this knowledge that we can pull on within ourselves that can cut away the lies of fear. As Brenda says over and over again, my sister, the other half, the Indigo Doors here, fear can only lie, truly, because once fear's telling the truth, it no longer is fear, right? So in the same way, it's kind of symbolized here by this shark. And then you pull out the sword of truth, but look at the color. The power of the sword comes from the heart, right? So you facing these fears and just allowing yourself to have these experiences like, hey, I'm really afraid. Hey, I'm really unsure of what to do right now. I feel like things have been taken away from me. Or my job has been taken away, and who am I really without these identities? So it's really allowing yourself to go there and look at your fears, right? This figure here is looking straight into the shark, and she is pulling on the power of her heart. So just by allowing herself to have the experience of the shark itself is an act of self-love. So kind of like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do you need the self-love to look at the shark, or do you get the love from looking at the shark? So it's kind of a paradox. And so in this way, it's trying to kind of represent something that's pretty complex, and I think it's pretty cool. So you pull on this energy of the heart, right? And you're able to face your fears. Now, that's not an easy thing. And I'm really oversimplifying things. We all know when we're in our fear, man, we really think it's true. We really, really think it's true. It takes a lot of practice to get into that space where you're saying, hey, wow, okay, whoa, I'm being afraid. I'm afraid. Just even recognizing that it's fear. And then recognizing that it's just fear, it's not the truth, right? There's a difference. Having the emotional experience of the fear and then it dictating your reality. Because we have a choice, right? We have a choice. We get to create our reality. And so by allowing us to have this experience, and the more you practice this, the better you'll get at noticing, then noticing what you're afraid of, truly, like, well, no, that person really makes me mad. Well, why? Well, they make me feel like I'm small, right? Or they're really demeaning, or they really don't let me ever have a voice. Well, what is that really triggering? Typically, if there's a trigger somewhere, it's already within you, like, in the book, The Four Agreements. If you're having that experience, it's coming from somewhere else, typically our childhood, but not always, right? Meaning, like, was there somebody else in your childhood that was always demeaning? Did you always have a hard time speaking up? Is this person just helping you recognize these feelings, right? So it's kind of complex, but it's the more you practice this and becoming aware of your feelings, the better you'll get at being able to then be able to decide what you do with it, right? Well, do we really want to believe that everybody's out to get us? No, I don't want to think that, right? Or maybe you do. Hey, there's no judgment, right? It's just putting us back into the driver's seat instead of our fear. And I don't want to take away um, from fear, because sometimes it really is overwhelming, and we really do think it's true. Like we really are scared for our lives. And that's where compassion and just love is the key to everything. If you're not here and you're hearing me say all these things and you're like, that's BS or whatever, then just love yourself more. Truly, it really is. It's just about whatever it is that you need, and you need to be there, and you need to keep yelling and saying that you've been mistreated. Then do that. There's no judgment. Truly, we all get it right in the end. So it's just acknowledging here in this picture that, you know we're all on this journey. We're all being faced with things, and it's this process of becoming. So it's this process of learning how to love ourselves in a bigger way. And though, even like in the painting, you see it's dark and it's kind of mysterious or even magical looking, it's like there's things that we don't understand about it, especially when you're in the middle of this process looking at your shark, right? Or you're in this process of lesson, or not to even think that that's a bad thing. It's just, so when you're in these moments, right? There are aspects that we don't understand, and you're really having to trust in a big way. So if anything, I hope this painting just kind of brings in this, hopefully some kind of this energy support for this process. Maybe you'll think about it next time you're feeling fear, and how you kind of allowing yourself to have the experience and really learn how to kind of face your shark. Um, because in that moment, in the moment that you're facing the shark, is the same moment you start to change form, like the phoenix. So it's this kind of beautiful relationship of magic and emotional mastery. But just the overall, this is the painting I wanted to start with, because I feel like I never really got to fully kind of express the magic that was found here. But right before COVID hit, I think I finished it in February. Um, and and then I have more paintings that I created during COVID, but I didn't realize the symbolic importance of some of the things that they were trying to pull through. And I'm just kind of checking in to see if there's anything else. Just, I mean, what they're saying right now is just, no matter where we're at in our journey, just how amazing we are. I mean, that's what they always say when I connect with them, is how amazing we are and how loved we are, and just realizing the beauty of all parts, even the beauty of facing our sharks. Um, as you can see here in this painting, is beautiful. It is beautiful. I mean, I think it's beautiful, and yeah, and just kind of honestly just changing the relationship with these monsters, changing the relationship we have with these darker feelings and things. They really are there to help shift us um, into the phoenix, right? Into, we want change, we want happiness, we want love, we manifest these things, we say these things, whatever it is that we want. We're like, hey, I want this, or I want this, and we put out all this intention, and or I want to be happy and I want to do these things. And then all this change happens, or then we're faced with our biggest fear. They say as soon as you start manifesting abundance, right, like financial abundance, you're usually going to be faced right away with all of your fears surrounding it, whether you're not good enough, or um, you're not worthy, or all of these things just start coming up. Like, okay, you want abundance? Well, you're going to have to look at this belief system. You're going to have to look at these things. So this process of looking at our stuff is exactly probably what we asked for. And so in this way, we are the storm, right? We are the ones that are creating this big wave. As you see here in the painting, we're the ones who are asking for it. We're the ones who are saying, hey, we want We want world peace. We want a better planet. We want a more conscious planet that, that where we're a lot more earth conscious, and we're sustainable energy, and where people just treat each other with so much love. Okay, well, this is what you want. We have to look at all of our um, functioning. Then we have to look at, how do we handle money? What's our relationship with money in the outside world? Our value system, the hierarchy, all of these things have to be looked at and shift, so we can create this beautiful loving planet. Right, so it's so even though that's the same process that happens internally, right, with change, it also happens externally. It's happening on a bigger scale, as you see within our culture and stuff. And I think it's a beautiful time to be alive. I'm very grateful for it. It's such it's kind of it's magnificent. We get to see people rise up out of darkness. We get to watch people stand up for themselves, and we get to watch people be able to um you know s- make justice where injustice was. And it's I'm all for love, no violence. And it's neat to see this evolve, and I'm always sending love and light out there to everybody and anybody that needs it. um and so, like we always say, when in doubt, love yourself. And this is the painting that kind of represents how we face things and we rise, right? And so I hope you enjoyed it. It was fun to paint. If you want a print of it, hey, you can follow the link in the little thing on our website, and I'll send it one right out to you, signed and with an explanation on the back. But I would love to hear what you think of it, and I appreciate you for just listening to this, and um, being a part of this change in this beautiful planet that we live on. So until next time, bye.